On that note, here we go. Okay, welcome back, everyone. Good to see y'all. We are in the midst of chapter 7, talking about false humility and its cure. And just as a recap from last week, we're talking about this notion of people who have Jewish insecurity, who have they're insecure in terms of their practice and their relationship with God, and they um, are bending a lot of their actions to the whims of other people, and not just to anybody, to where they'll get social approval, right? And they have right, they're not secure in the way that they live, and they need to be able to get validation from a lot of other people, things like that. Now, we're going to see how it ties into false humility specifically, but the goal that somebody should have. Yeah, how are you? Thanks for joining. The goal that someone should have ultimately is to become to have, let's call it, secure attachment with their Judaism. Ultimately, that they're in a good place and they're honest, they're authentic and genuine with themselves, and they're not going around in their insecurity trying to bend to the approval of others. So it's hard. The struggle is real. I recognize that. Um, and it's at least it's a lofty goal that we're aiming to try to obtain. Um, right, we're not worried about getting ridiculed by other people, getting made fun of, and we talked about, at length about where does that ridicule come from, right? If you have a group of people who are going around going like, mole this, mole that, right? Where is that coming from? It's rooted in the insecurity of others, because it's very hard to watch somebody strive and achieve in certain areas. Granted that never, if a person is striving and achieving, should they ever turn around and put down somebody else, God forbid. But it comes from their own insecurity. Nobody likes when they see their friend elevated above them. Nobody likes to see when people have progress, when they know themselves, I'm capable of that progress and I'm not doing it. So rather than lift myself up, I'm going to put the people down around me so that I appear to be higher. That's a big no-no. When we are dictated, or at least we make our decisions in conjunction with the way that they feel about us, right? Then there's a problem there. We're not standing on our own 2 feet in a solid way. We don't have that stability and that security that we also want. So we're going to continue. We're at the bottom of page 143. For those of you who have the book, we're going to go weiter. So it says like this: Jewish youth, listen to the following principle because it is relevant to the issues and to many others. To these issues and many others. If you do not make a Herculean effort to remove and uproot from within yourself all the negative character traits and nonsensical attitudes which you retain from your childhood, they will stay with you forever and harm you. Now, he's making the point that we ended with last week. He said that this is childish behavior that follows itself into adulthood. I use the example about my children, or really any child, right? The way that we condition a child to know right from wrong is well, it's not really sarcastically, but we over exaggerate in terms of letting them know whether or not we approve of what they do. Child does something we want, and what do? We go, right? When we don't want them, we make a face like, oh, no, 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 right? We're teaching them right from wrong based on the approvals of others. So when a little kid does something, what do? Right? They put the toy back into the bin, and then they look at you. What are they looking for? They're looking for your response, because your response is going to let them know whether or not what they did was good or not good, whether they are getting the approval or the disapproval, right? Are you disappointed in me? Or are you celebrating? Are you happy and you clapping for me? That's how little children are. And when you grow into an adult physically, but spiritually, you still have that the disposition of a 5-year-old, which many do, right? What do you think peer pressure truly is? You're not taking refuge in what's right versus what's wrong. You're rather looking for the approval of other people, and that becomes your self-esteem in a nutshell. That becomes what builds you up, and it's horrible. You're looking for it in all the wrong places, and ultimately you're a very weak person. We can refer to you as a child. What we say to people, you got to grow up, meaning that like, oh, but I'm nervous what they're going to say about me. Grow up, get a backbone, put on the big boy pants. It's enough. You got to grow up eventually. And he's making this point to say that if we do not make, and I'm happy he refers to it as a Herculean effort, if we do not put in all of our energy and effort to grow and develop into the better versions of ourselves, then we remain children. We remain a child, and we need to grow. I made the point last week to say that, you sit in a chair and somebody feeds you, and you're breathing air and you're sleeping, you're going to physically grow. You're going to become more of an adult. But this spiritual element, in terms of not being a child and growing up in your maturity, that does not change unless you put in effort to actually have it develop. It stays where it is. And I use the example, and I'll highlight it again. Meet a lot of kids when they're 15, 16, and 17. I stick around. And then they're 23, 24, 25, and they're the same person, literally the same person. And you're just like, you love them and you think they're great, but they didn't grow. When you're 24 and 16, and other than your physical growth and development, you can't tell a difference with the person. That's really unfortunate. It's really sad and
I have
unfortunate.
a
Yeah, sure.
question.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, you can look at someone that's 14 and then 26 and be like they're the same person, but aren't a lot of the met like the steps you take to growth not visible? Like I believe in like the idea that not all of the things that you're gonna do when you grow are gonna be visible to other people. It's gonna be internal. So not everyone's gonna be able to see it 10 years from now.
It's not about seeing it, it's about feeling it. When a person matures, yes, maturity is not a tangible item that you can hold in your hand or measure in a laboratory, for sure not. When a person grows and develops and you see that the way that they act, I mean, I personally love watching growth in real time. I was sitting with two individuals the other day, and one of them had an awful tendency about making everything about themselves. And so the other person was speaking, and in the middle, this person interrupted and started to talk about themselves. And 4 words into the sentence, they went, "Ooh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to do that." And I went, "Oh my God, you would never do that 4 months ago. That's crazy." So
Mm,
yeah, when a person grows and develops, you do see it because the way that they carry themselves is very different. When I
mm,
when I mean the same, and again, it's like a costume. It's like obviously when you're 16 or 24, uh, of course I'm different. I'm in college now. I have a job. I didn't drive. Now I have my license. These are all shallow and superficial things in a sense that you're wearing a costume, right? When my Morty, who's 2 years old, like goes, I go, "Morty, put your shoes on." And he goes, "Abba shoes?" And you see him standing in my shoes at the front door. It's cute. He's playing dress up. But the same thing. When you're 16, now you're 24. Now you have an internship, right? You're just
mm,
playing dress up. You're still a child. You're just on the external stuff looks different. When I say you stay the same, because they'll push back at me and say, "How could you say they're the same? Did I have this fancy internship 8 years ago?" That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the things that matter, your maturity, your character. So yes, they're
mm.
not things that you can see, they're internal, but they manifest themselves. When you meet somebody and they carry themselves in a way more mature way and they're acting different and their values have changed and developed, for
Yeah.
sure. For sure. When I look at again, a lot of your advisors were young high school TJ kids as well. And the way that they are today is radically different in a positive way. They've gotten their lives together. They've worked really hard to become who they are. Their
Hmm.
core values and priorities are now in order, now in check. So yeah, you do see a noticeable difference because what the external is usually a reflection of the internal. And when I say that somebody doesn't change, it means that the internal didn't change, and therefore they're still doing the same things, whining about the same things, concerned about the same. They're just as insecure. They're just, they got a job. So like they think they're adult now because they put gas in their car. You're not really an adult. You're a child who puts gas in the car. It's dress up. So that's what I mean. You could for sure see, and you could feel it as well, right? Like there's intellectual intelligence, there's emotional intelligence, and spiritual intelligence. Your neshama can know things that the brain can't, but you could feel it when you're sitting and having a conversation with somebody like, wow, I'm speaking to a more refined version of the person I used to know. And it's a great feeling for sure. So that's his point here. Nonsensical attitudes which you retain from childhood, they will stay with you forever and they will harm you. Why do they harm you? Right? And this is again, this is what it means to be a Jew, but it's also what it means to be a human being. Life is about growth. If a year goes by in your life and you are virtually the same, and when I say the same, I mean in terms of your growth and development and maturity, if you are the same, what did you do with that year of your life? It's a graph, right? Your years are like this. So if you maintain the same with my definition, and you're going along your timeline like this, you're actually going, the trajectory should be like this. And if you're going like this, right? If you're the same 24 when you were 16, 8 years went by. I'm the same. I didn't go down. Of course you went down because 8 years demanded of you growth. If our GDP stays the same every single year, that's stagnation. There's no growth there. That's horrible. It's not what we want. Yeah, Rihanna.
But isn't like just like how like things work, like the graph is kind of gonna like stabilize out a little as you're like older because like at like for example like us like right now it might be like in the next like few years could be like hopefully our peak growth and then like once you're an adult and you have like obviously you're growing you're learning more but like
No, no,
you're
for
not
sure.
making
Right,
like
right.
it's
No,
like
those are
kind of like a straight.
those
It's
there
not
were
gonna go up as
yeah,
much.
yeah, I get what you're saying, and different stages of life cater to different things, and growth looks differently, but nonetheless the same. It's the same. If a person says, "Hey, oh, I'm 35 now, great. I'm good. I'm just gonna chill like this," and there's no aspirations to take on more things. I hope in a year from now I'll be a better parent. I'll be a better spouse. I'll be, there's always different. Yes, the change seems to be a little bit more radical when you're in those years because you're formulating that whole stuff. Then you kind of chip away at it. But let's say whatever the growth is expected as appropriate to the age and stage of life that you are. This is the years of your life and this is your growth on the graph chart. It's supposed to be like this. If you're just getting older, right? But you're not growing, then yes, you're moving further away from the goal of where we want to see growth over time. But yes, certainly it's a good point. It looks different at different stages of life, right? The next 3 years of my life will not look like the next 3 years of your life when it comes to like, noticeable change, so to speak. But the growth process is still supposed to be there. You have to have something that you could point at and say, wow, 3 years ago, I was not at all, thriving in this area, but here, look at me now, because I don't take my foot off the gas. I'm growing always, just looks different at this stage. So, and if your Yetzer Hara tries to tempt you by saying, why should you work on yourself? You're still young. And that's why all these negative traits are still part of you. When you grow older, they will disappear on their own, and your opinions and midos will improve automatically. Have mercy upon yourself and don't listen to him. Well, you want to talk about a pet peeve over here. This is the most, it's this, it's sad, it's funny, it's pathetic. I'm trying to think of other words we can sprinkle in over here. You look at a kid and you just say, and they say something along the lines of this: when I'm older, and then they start to describe all the things that are going to be achieved when they're older. And it's so foolish and it's so frustrating because how you get, like, I'll give you an example, right? Yeah, when I'm older, when I'm married and I have a home, I'm going to be Shomer Shabbat. Okay. Do you want to break it down for me when that happens? Oh, you mean, oh, you walk down the aisle, the ring goes on, and voila, magically, you're all of a sudden your home is Shomer Shabbat. It's amazing. Wow. Required no effort. The people, the lazy, and again, morally weak character people who think to themselves that time in and of itself is going to take care of their issues and their problems. And I'm not just talking about spiritual growth, I'm also talking about character development. Yeah, I hear it all the time. I'm talking about your character development. For example, you say like, "Oh, I'm the type of person like, oh, I speak a lot of lashon hara." Okay, so if I were to ask you like, "Okay, when you're an adult, are you going to speak a lot of lashon hara?" No, no, because when I'm an adult, magically it's going to go. Have you ever met screwed up parents? Have you met parents or have you met adults with character and moral deficiencies? How do you think they got there? They got there by not taking care of it when they were supposed to. You will be a better adult in the future by working on it today. This stupidity, which so many kids carry, this stupid thought, where it's like, yeah, later in life, time does not fix your problems for you. It is such a stupid notion that one day you're going to wake up and all the things that you want in life are going to just be there for you. But I see it so frequently. Kids have this warped idea in their head that time in and of itself is just going to take care of their growth for them. And it's moronic. It is so stupid. It's unbelievable. If a person doesn't have a game plan in place or they start chipping away at it today, when exactly is that going to go down? Then you wake up and you're 30 years old and you're the same person. I think it's a cop out. I think it's lazy. There's someone who says that. What can you say to some? Oh, so I have a little fun, right? I don't go as aggressive at that. When someone says that, they go, yeah, 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 yeah. They go, oh, yeah. When I'm older, my home is going to be like this. I go, okay, wow, that's really nice. That's really special. So tell me, when does that happen? What do you mean? Like when? Like walk me through. Like at what point am I? A lot of times they'll say, oh, like I love this. This is another thing also for those who are like a little bit more advanced. They go like, yeah, in seminary, I'm going to work on that stuff. Ah, okay. Okay. Yeah, it doesn't work that way either. Now you find people and like literally it's halfway through the year and they're still struggling. Why? Because you thought when I got there, it's that mindset of I'm just going to outsource the work I need to do to other stages of life and other institutions. It doesn't work that way. Explain to me, when does that happen? You see, again, I've been around long enough to see that it just doesn't happen. People who are going to be successful are the ones who take their growth seriously today when they learn about how to achieve. And I don't mean take on, there are some things that are like, yes, okay, they're situational. I don't expect anyone here to work on their marriage. Obviously, I don't think that should be a priority of you to sit down and start reading, successful marriage books. That's not where you are in life. But somebody who doesn't is not growth oriented in nature and says, "Oh my God, I want to become a better person." You start working on it today because being growth oriented is also something you need to condition yourself on. What does it mean to be growth oriented? Being growth oriented is a mindset of growth where I look at all the experiences and I proactively say, how do I want this experience to affect me? I come into experiences with goals, right? I say to myself, okay, I'm going on a summer program. Great. I'm taking my gap year. Great. I'm going to college. Great. Automatically, they're looking for opportunities to develop themselves. They have goals and they have a plan and they think to themselves, okay, when I exit whatever it is that I'm entering, then I'm going to be different coming out. That's what a growth oriented person is. If you don't become that type of a person today while you're molding yourself, then how on earth are you going to become that type of person when you're older? If you're a stagnant teenager, you're going to be a stagnant adult. It's not impossible, but can you imagine how hard it is as an adult when you're living your life year after year to uproot your nature and then try to reformulate it? It's crazy. You want to be successful, you become a growth oriented person at the time when you're molding yourself, and then you're guaranteed that even later in life, you'll continue to be a growth oriented person. So the whole notion of like, oh, in the future, one day, life is going to just solve all my issues, it's so stupid and it is so common. I think it's rooted in laziness, which we spoke about a few chapters ago. I think it is a real laziness. And I think the Yetzer Hara looks at that and goes, my God, oh, you love that, don't you? Great. Let me take that. That's going to be my baby. I'm just going to run with that. And then keep putting it in your head. Oh, yeah, when I'm later, oh, next summer, this and that. And you blink, and next thing you know, 3 years of your life went by. And the Yetzer Hara is like, wow, victory, man. I'm just, I'm literally murdering you. I'm destroying your life. Your years are going by and you're accomplishing nothing. It is very sad. When you hear that, you should have a sensitivity to that. You should have a sensitivity. First, you should look at them and be like, ugh, nebuch, you know? I mean, don't say that, but like, oh, woe is to you, but also to yourself, like, woe is to me. God forbid that I do that? Do I start to outsource my growth to future years and magically all of a sudden, boom, it's just going to happen on its own. If you catch yourself doing that, you should be horrified. You should uproot that right away because that is the stagnation is the enemy of progress. When a person is just like, I'm chilling right here. You know what I mean? Like I feel very good about like how I've conditioned myself. I even know it because to me, how I like to vacation, and this is I talk about it with my wife and I love it. When we go on vacations, we cannot go on vacation for more than 4 days. Cannot. How do we like to vacation? We like to sit and do nothing. Absolutely nothing because we're very hard workers. So we do enjoy that. But if we were to go for more than 4 days, we would start to get this yucky feeling in our soul. Literally, like, what am I doing with my life? I have to get back and continue to. So Baruch Hashem, we know. Okay, now I know. Okay, good. Thank God I'm this way. That I worked hard to become this way, because I can't just waste my life. There are certain people, and you can see it also, by the way. Like you have 2 weeks of winter vacation. There's two types of kids, right? There's the type of kid who's just like, I can sit home and binge watch Netflix and TikTok endlessly. 2 weeks went by and I rotted my brain versus other people who are just like, I can't do nothing. Even if it's not like growth oriented, productive, but like, I can't just sit home and do nothing. I need to do something. I have to make plans, right? That's the type of person you want to be. I'm uncomfortable sitting and doing nothing with my life, no matter what. That's the type of person you want to be. And even if it's meaningless, I'm making plans. I'm going to go to the beach. I'm doing stuff. I'm doer. I'm a doer. I'm not just sitting and wasting my life. Yeah, Ree.
I don't think like people that like for example like the winter breakers like do nothing. I don't think they're necessarily comfortable with that. Like I don't think they're like they're not
Yeah,
like
true.
like they're
There
like
are people who literally are so happy to go to sleep at 4 or 5 a.m. scrolling, sleep till 2 in the afternoon, wake up and do nothing, just watch a little bit and repeat. I know a lot of kids who do that. I
No,
even ask them.
two
They
weeks
don't
straight
know
like
that I feel bad for them, but
happy.
like
Like that's like depression, in my opinion, because people don't realize it, but they think that they're
there
happy.
are yes, there are those who, but I'm not talking about this. I'm talking about people who are just perfectly happy doing nothing, like doing nothing.
they're happy or they're just like oh yeah like
Yeah,
I
no,
just
okay.
chill.
So it's not that I'm happy. No, I think they don't. I don't even think they have enough brains to think about it. They're just like, wow, you just had 2 weeks of your life went by and you did nothing and you were okay with it. When I say, okay, so let me rephrase. When I always say like, oh, I'm so happy to do nothing. I mean that it just doesn't irk them. It doesn't bother them. Like they all that time went by and they were just like, yeah. And I can say, does that bother you? You literally sat home and did nothing with your life. Does that bother you? No, no.
I
This is
think
the
it's time to question all these kids at school.
no. I just when I schmooze with people after a break, I come
Oh,
by and I'm just like, oh, so what'd you do with your break? Oh, I did nothing. I was like, oh, so you literally sat home and you just I think kids that I was very close with also, like it's really sad. It's really sad. It's a type, it's a personality type. It's like, is there a sense of urgency, right? Again, none of you guys are like this. I can say that with certainty. You guys are not like this. If you went for an extended period of time and did nothing productive, you would start to feel bad about yourself because you demand more of yourself. You're growth oriented. You would say, what am I doing with my life? I don't feel good about myself right now. I need to go out and do something productive and be someone who's adding something to society, someone who's actually helping, even my life, building something, helping the Jewish people, something.
But isn't that like something like everyone has that like sense, even if it's not in a Jewish way? It's like everyone
I
has
I
like
think
a
I think
sense of
everyone
wanting to contribute to like and have like
I
meaning.
I think everyone does have a soul. Yes. Yeah, you see it on TJJ. Parts come out of people that they never knew that they had. The problem is if they're not willing to do the work, that part of them will get murdered by the Yetzer Hara. And I use that language intentionally, will get murdered because you could be physically alive and spiritually dead. And if you give yourself to that type of an attitude and a lifestyle, your Yetzer Hara will be like, oh, I am winning every day. And then enough time goes by and they become that person for the rest of their life. And it's literally it's murder because you're physically alive, but all you're doing here is taking up oxygen. What is your life worth? Again, that's a very, black and
Oh,
white way to
it's
look at
always
it.
so harsh.
But he's using, but no, we have to use charged language because of how dire it is. We're only passing through in this world. We want to make an impact. We want to use our life. God put us here for a reason. We want to actually accomplish things, work towards our purpose and be successful and grow, become the best we can be. Your time is one of the most valuable things, if not the most valuable thing that you have. How could you waste it? So again,
Yeah.
when people, this attitude of outsourcing your growth to time in and of itself is such a toxic mistake. And they don't even realize how it's costing them. But we have to be more aware of it, recognize where it happens. Like, again, I think it's rooted in a deep laziness, but it's a very scary thing. It's a very scary thing. They will remain children for the rest of their lives. And you know what? What the saddest part is, because I play cleanup on a lot of this, there's no litmus test to have kids. If someone of low moral character, it's very easy to just go get married and have a kid. You don't have to pass a test to do that. You can literally just go have a kid whenever you want, right?
They let anyone have kids. That's like a crazy
Of
like thing.
course. There,
Anyone
there,
can have a
there's no
kid.
there's no eligibility test to be a parent. But if there was, there would be a lot less kids in the world, which having kids is really good. You should have kids. But it's sad that parents who are adult children who never worked on themselves can play house by moving into a house and then having kids. And you know who suffers is the kids. And I play a lot of cleanup. When parents are selfish like children are, and they don't prioritize their children, they prioritize themselves, which leads to broken homes. Again, it is every situation is unique, but on a very broad level, the kids are the recipients of childish behavior on adults because they have kids and the parents don't want to do the hard work. They lack empathy and they lack, like, just the basic things of what it is to raise a kid in a certain way. And again, I work with kids, so I see it day in and day out. It's very hard. You don't take this serious today, it's gonna stay with you. You will remain a child indefinitely, and then your kids will be the recipient of your lack of drive to want to work on yourself. And there she goes. Okay. Where are we? Right, right. Have mercy upon yourself and don't listen to him. Right? Don't listen to him. Because again, we're not out there to ridicule people yet. We're gonna get to that part. But also for ourselves, to recognize for ourselves, do we, and I'm not saying like every day, it could be emotionally exhausting to just be every day, like, but do we also say to ourselves, okay, there is time and place, right? You might have that issue where you're like, okay, listen, I'm not ready to deal with that just yet. Okay, fine. But I'm aware of it and I'm cheshboning. I'm making the calculation quite often to make sure I don't lose myself. Fine. But if you catch yourself saying there is a moral or a spiritual deficiency of me, and I am just kicking the can down the road for convenience because I don't want to deal with it, you should be horrified. You should be horrified. Better to live in the reality, right? Even if it's uncomfortable, just to condition yourself that way than to just continue to kick the can down the road. The only thing that grows older are the years, not the internal person. And I wish, oh, do I wish kids understood that. They say youth is wasted on the young. It's a very famous line. I forgot by who. I used to know. But anyway, Youth is wasted on the young, which means that when you're young, you have the ability to mold yourself into anything you want to be. The problem is that when you're a kid and you're not thinking, you make stupid decisions, and you're not paying attention to that, then you become an adult and your brain gets a little sharper and you're like, wow, it's so hard to change. If only I could go back to those years and do it again. Youth is wasted on the young because the gift of being young, sometimes you don't figure out that gift until you're older. But you guys are in the best position possible. You're growth oriented. You're looking to how to booster yourself to the best you can be, and you're in the perfect time of life. You don't have real responsibilities. You really don't. Oh my God, school is so hard. Yeah, okay, fine, get over it. You don't have those type of responsibilities. You're not in charge of putting food on the table or like making sure your kids are raised with a healthy self-esteem. Like you don't have to worry about the electric bill. You guys are okay. You are freed up to focus on yourself. This is the only stage in life where it's okay to be somewhat selfish. You have a gift, such a golden gift. Don't waste it. Don't wake up in 15 years from now and turn around and say, oh, if I could go back to that time. It is so easy. It's not easy, but it's so easy to change at your stage. It's hard to change, but you know what I'm saying? It's easy because that's your only job in life right now. Yeah, okay, fine. So you have to babysit now and then your younger siblings and you have to get, study for your tests. Shkoyach. You're freed up to grow and develop. I mean, how amazing is that? You have the resources, the support. You're able to do it now. And that's his point, right? The years will grow older, but the internal person won't change. You have that gift today. There are people who are adults and even senior citizens in years, but their age is measured according to their opinions and the evidence of their personality since they are teenagers, and some even as little children. And it is not hard to identify it. Really sad. That's because they neglect to work on self-improvement and we're sure that the passage of time would take care of everything for them. If there is like, you want to just print this out and put it on your wall and read it every single morning to motivate yourself, like, do it because this is so crucial. People lose themselves in the grit of life and when they're not they distract themselves with everything in the entire world, but then anything to try to avoid this idea and this concept. Yeah, Rihanna, you had a question?
Like you're saying, like, it's super common that like adults can like fully be like at the maturity of like kids. Like there could be teens that are more like mature, I guess, or like developed.
100%.
So
Have,
like
have you just as an example, right? Very thick-headed, not open-minded adults. You know who's thick-headed and not open-minded? Little children, right? Like arrogant 15-year-old kids who will have their opinions. You know what I mean? If you're an adult and you're just as arrogant and closed-minded in your opinions as an adult, what happened to you maturing? A mature person has an open mind. So yes,
But
it's very, very
my
common.
question is like the Torah like obviously has like a super huge emphasis on like respecting like your parents, elders, like all these like people that are like older than you and like obviously it's super important. But isn't that like I understand the general rule, but like for these exceptions of types of people, isn't it kind of like blurry kind of like
Where
oh I'm
where do,
supposed
where
to
do you
like
where do you see the disconnect?
that like somebody's acting like a child as an adult or like they're giving you like they're behaving like a kid but you're supposed to like show them the same respect like you have like you're still like obviously you're supposed to like be respectful to like anybody but like I don't know like it's like
There's no contradiction here at all. It's a good question, but I want to point out there's no contradiction here at all. Okay. There are people when it comes to in Judaism, keep it of aim, there's reverence and then there's respect. And you can have both of those while also in your head, right? Recognizing and calling a spade a spade. Let's say you're at your friend's house, right? You're at your friend's house and you're sitting there and you watch, which is one of the most uncomfortable things that anyone has to go through, but we've all been there, where your friend's mom is just railing on your friend in front of you. And you're sitting there awkwardly at the table, like, can I go home now? Like, and they're just yelling at them and you're sitting there and you're like, "Ah." And then she looks at you and she goes, I'm so sorry, you have to see this. And you're like, no, it's fine. My mom yells at me too. Like, so we've all been there, right? But imagine you're watching this unfold and the mom is just going ham at the kid. And the kid is just sitting there going like, hold on, but mom, can I explain to you? And they're like trying to like just converse. And the mom is just like shutting it down. You can see the mom has no clue about the kid's perspective, but is just basically like, this is it because I said so, and I'm the mom, and shut up and you're done. And you're like, that's kind of messed up, I'm just like, like Okay, the mom is clearly wrong, but they're leveraging like, their power, the position of authority, and they're just shutting down and crushing their kid and not, handling like just going about the whole situation, like in a horrible. So you look at him and just be like, okay, like again, if it's an isolated incident, but if like that mom, it's like they're impossible to talk to. Like the daughter feels neglectful all the time because she feels like her feelings don't matter because her mom never gives her a voice and never treats her feelings with any real respect. You're able to sit there and identify that in the parent, right? So there are two things when it comes to a position of authority, right? There is the respect that the title carries, and then there's the respect for the individual. You don't have to respect your parents, but you have to respect your parents. What does that mean? It means that you are not allowed to talk back to them. You are not allowed to curse them out. You can't sit in their chair. They ask you to get you a cup of water. You can get them a cup of water. But to sit there internally and feel like, yes, I respect them as people, as individuals, no, that's not what that means. That's not what that means. And then nowhere there is there a
That was my
commandment.
question.
No,
Like,
that
if you have to, like, in
that
your heart, like, respect, like,
you have to earn. You have to earn. I'll be honest with you. I've had a boss one time where it was like I thought they were horrible, horrible. I really, really, as a person, I thought they were garbage. I didn't respect any of the work. And yet, because they carried office, because they carried a position and a title, I showed them respect because I respected the position, not because I respected the person. I had no respect for the person, but I had respect for the position. Right? They were a title and they were my boss, and therefore they deserve the respect that the person holding the office deserves, regardless whether I like them or not. Right? The president of the United States, like Joe Biden, you can think he's the worst, sack of garbage in the entire world, and yet he's still the president of the United States. And when he walks in the room, you still have to stand up because you're standing up for the title and the office that they hold. So the same thing with parents as well. So it's not a contradiction. You can still identify where someone is not acting right in terms of their character, right? If a parent has anger issues, it's not like you're supposed to be neglectful, like, oh no, they're wonderful people. They have no, of course you could see the good in them, but to say that I'm going to be totally naive to the fact that they have a short fuse, that's a bad thing. That's a terrible thing. Now, are you the one as a kid to highlight that for them? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Unless you could do it in a constructive, respectful way. Certainly not in a time of conflict. That is not, as a kid, you're not there to muster anybody. But to not identify the character flaw, why not? Why not? How are we supposed to? We can know the definition of right and wrong. It doesn't compromise the respect that you have to show them because they hold the title of parent, right? Again, two garbage human beings can get together, have a kid, and they could still be garbage human beings, but they still have to have that respect from their child simply because they're the child. They brought them into the world. Does that make sense? You like to separate the two in a sense?
yeah, like,
So they're
thank
not,
you.
it's not a contradiction. It's a hard thing for a kid. It's just like kids have a hard time with that. They go, I have no respect for my parents. And they have a hard time understanding that even though you don't respect them as parents, you still have to show them the respect. You gotta work through your business. But I think to the other way, to the extreme, where it's like where you're blinded and you're like, because they're my parents, I respect them, da, 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 and you can't like call out when there is something really negative happening in front of you. That's not good either. You have to be able to call a spade a spade. You have to be able to identify, hey, I know what proper character behavior looks like. This is not it, right? It's not my job to go and try to fix them. But some kids think that it is their job, and they are horribly mistaken. You should never ever try to do that. That's not your role. It's not. But certainly to aspire to say, okay, when I'm parents, I'm not gonna. I'm gonna work really hard to not do that, to not shut down and not take away the voice from my child. It's a very common thing, unfortunately. Because I'm older, I know better. I'm right, you're wrong. It's not a good thing. Okay.
Wait, can I ask what the question was? Like I heard everything else, but I want to know what the question was that was being asked.
Her question is basically she's like Judaism promotes the respect for your parents, right? So how do you reconcile between like if I'm supposed to respect my parents, yet when I see adults who have real character and spiritual deficiencies, how do I approach that if I'm commanded to respect them? So
Wow.
we make
What a
the
beautiful question.
right. Judaism does not tell you to respect the person. Judaism commands you to respect the office in which they hold. That makes sense.
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay. Okay, okay, let's do one more paragraph here. Well, we'll get to the next page here. Let's return to the subject now. Let's take a look at how is it that this disease of false humility can remain with a person from childhood and how to cure oneself of it. When a child's mental development begins, he does not have the ability to differentiate between good and bad. Nor does he have the inner voice telling him, do this and do that. He has no choice but to absorb the ideas of those around him because he has no way of knowing what to do on his own. He can only evaluate the concepts of good and bad according to the perceptions of adults who make up his world. This is what we've been talking about to this point, right? As your parent, your job is to indoctrinate your children to understand the difference between right and wrong, right? You say, please, what's the magic word? What is that? That's an indoctrination. The kid doesn't know right from wrong. If you take a kid and you raise them in any which way that you want, they will know how to act based, if a kid in kindergarten is cussing out his teacher, the obvious thing is, where'd you learn that? You learned that at home. You saw the way your parents acted. The job of a parent is to indoctrinate your child, which means to implant in them the definition of right, wrong, good and bad, moral and immoral. That is literally what a parent's job is because they don't have the brain to discern right from wrong. Which again, not to get political, but when you find political ideologies that are advocating of getting kids who are literally very, very young and don't have brains of their own, that is a form of abuse, right? To infuse or do something destructive to a child who doesn't know any better, that is immoral, okay? Because there are things that are objectively immoral, like confusing a child in terms of something as basic as gender roles, right? That would be, in my mind, abusive. I think that's a horrific thing to do to a child. Anyway, when the child grows older, he doesn't take care, I'm sorry, he does not take care to form his own thoughts and opinions, and the opinions of others will remain with him. They alone will control him. He will yield and make decisions based on their whims and will self-consciously await their opinions lest they make fun of him. Everything he does will be the goal of finding favor in other people's eyes. This is exactly what we've been talking about to this point. A child is conditioned this way, and if you continue to do that in your life, you are doing something horrifically wrong. The Jewish perspective is this. Nobody seems to understand this. When you say, what is a bar and a bat mitzvah? They go, oh, it's a party. They don't know what a bar and bat mitzvah is. What is a bar and bat mitzvah? A bar and bat mitzvah is the age of development where Hashem says you have enough of a brain now that you are in a position to have your own conscious thought, your own autonomy. Your brain is developed. Now you can ask critical questions. You can evaluate. You can analyze. Hey, my parents raised me to know right and wrong. I can ask questions on that. Is that really right and wrong? You can choose for yourself. That's what it is. When we say you're an adult now in Judaism, it means that you have now responsibility for right and wrong. If you don't keep Shabbat as an 11-year-old, whose fault is that? That's your parents' fault. It's not your fault. But now that I'm 12 or 13 years old, now you can say, wait a minute. I've been raised to keep Shabbat. Should I be doing this? Why? Right? Your job as a parent is to build them up to the best of your ability. So that way, when they get to bloom as an adult, now they can start to, right? And you gave them a head start because you're supposed to raise them in line with what you believe to be moral, right, and just. But that's what a bar and bar mitzvah is. At that point on, you are now responsible for your own actions. You can't at 17 years old still say, I do something wrong because, hey, that's the way I was raised. It's unfortunately that is what it is, right? Because today's 16-year-old is yesterday's 9-year-old, but that's not how it's supposed to be. Hashem says your brain is developed now, and that's what it is to be a bar and bat mitzvah, meaning I am taking the responsibilities of mitzvahs in my own hand. Ask every, reformed kid who goes out and now that I'm bat mitzvah, I am a ketama. And it's like, what changes? What changes? I'm not saying that anything should drive, if you feel like, if you're choosing the way you were raised in terms of your moral outlook in life is good and right, okay, then good. Then stand by it. But you have a brain. You're supposed to now you're an adult. That's what it means to be an adult, basically. Yeah, Rick.
Sorry, I'm super chatty tonight,
I
but
love it.
um was it, oh, like that you said, like nowadays, like, yeah, like kids are like super, like not even close to where they were, like a 16-year-old is like a 9-year-old, whatever. Like, but do we still have like the potential, kind of, like, even with like this like environment that
Yeah,
like
you do. Listen, it's a generational disease. Our generation is just, you know, back in the day, 13-year-olds, they were like plowing the fields. They were like ready to start families, like a few
I'm
hundred years
saying,
ago.
like, how does it still, like, kind of like we still have the same like obligation, whatever, like
It, it,
now,
it's
like
it's
the kids are so
unfortunate.
different.
It's unfortunate, but again, I think that we as a community, TJJ and CSY, we wake up a lot of kids to start. I mean, one of the main things we don't, minus like my shiurim on Shabbos, we don't really tell kids what they should or shouldn't think. We bring up points and we're argumentative, change my mind, right? We try to get people to think for themselves. We challenge their status quo and say, go out and find the truth. That's what we promote. And then they wake up to it. If I went to certain communities in America, even Jewish communities, and I went to all the bar mitzvah boys and I were to say, what does it mean to be a Jew? There are certain communities where every single kid would know the right answer to that question. And they would say it, they would know it, they investigate it, and they would say, yeah, for sure. And I sit around asking 16 and 17-year-olds in other communities, and they're all sitting there going like, wow, it's a really hard question. Okay. So we're trying to wake people up. That's when you get out there, it's just like boom, there's so much of the world. This is your history, this is your identity. What's going on with you? You got to figure this stuff out, right? So we'll have a bat mitzvah for you at 16, 17 years old. But I mean, that's the only way you can just pull someone out of their. We live in a generation that just loves to just be on autopilot. You got to wake people up. You got to challenge their things, right? Ask a kid in your school, just like casually, do you think you should keep Shabbat? I love that question. I love that question.
I will get
Ask it.
jumped.
No, but I'm saying, but you see, if there's like an aggressive or like a belittling to the response to that question, go ask a random kid in your class, like, can I ask you a serious question? Do you think morally that you should keep Shabbat? Have they ever been asked that question? Have they ever thought about it? Or they just said, oh, I was raised a certain way, so this is just what I do. And I'm not just saying those who don't keep Shabbat, those who keep Shabbat as well. You shouldn't keep Shabbat just because your family raised you to keep Shabbat as a 16-year-old. You should take ownership over your Shabbat. You should investigate it and understand why you've been doing what you're doing. Some people collapse when they're older. It's like, oh, you were just doing this your whole life. So you're 24 years old and you're a servant of God only because you were raised that way in a religious community. That's not how that works. You're supposed to do it because you're choosing to do it. Yeah, maybe your parents gave you a head start, but you should be doing things because you're choosing to do the morally correct thing, not because you were indoctrinated and just never had a mind of your own. So you're 20 years old now, and this is just how you're doing it now.
I had a
That's more
friend
wholesome.
who like she's talking about how like she grew up like Shomer Shabbat and she's like she said like usually my family like when like my like siblings turn 18 like we don't have to anymore whatever and she's like I think I'm gonna like take a break from keeping Shabbat and at first I was gonna like no like whatever like start freaking out I was like I don't like what to say because like mole but like I'm kidding I was saying like if you think like you want to like find out what it means like for yourself, then that's like a good thing also. Like you shouldn't whatever. I don't know. I said
Yeah,
something similar, but I was like
it's we don't hold of the Amish approach, but it is effective. You ever heard of a Rumpspringer?
go
Anybody?
like to the I don't know what that is, but like are
When
you
when when an
saying
Amish person turns 18, they have a year, their gap year is basically to go out and do all the sinful things that they were restricted from their whole life.
what?
Yeah, it's great. Rumspringa. So, but they go out there and they go crazy all in. They like use phones and Apple Watches and all that
I
naughty
love
stuff like
Amish
watch
people.
TV. Yeah, right. Driving cars. Anyway, but they have a like something like a 95% return rate. They come back. Why? Because now you experienced it. Now you see that the way you were raised is something that you're choosing it for yourself. So again, that's not the Jewish way at all, but it's effective for them because they're saying like, listen, you choose it. Don't just live this life because you were raised this way. See the value in it. See what's going on out there, right? And some kids will do that on their own. They'll rebel to taste a little bit of like what that was, and then they'll turn around and say, you know what? No, I liked it. I like my values a lot better.
Yeah, like I wasn't gonna say, yeah, do it. Let's have like a freaking shower party, but I also wasn't
A
gonna be like
breaking Shabbos party.
I don't know, looks the
Wow.
party, but I also wasn't gonna be like, yeah, I don't know. I remained neutral.
Nice. All right, so we'll end on this.
But just look.
Well, yeah, we'll end at the bottom here at 145 because this paradox is where these two elements come together, and it's remarkable to see. We've touched on it a little bit before, but we'll dive into it a little bit more deeply next time at the end of the paradox he's going to bring up here. End of bottom of page 145. And we'll pick it up next week because I gotta get to Hollywood anyway. All right. Any questions before we end the recording
You're
here?
gonna be so late. Oh, emoji. This week's emoji is a birthday cake for Sherelle's birthday.
Oh, happy birthday, Cheryl. We hope she'll join the party next week.
She's been slacking
Maybe
honestly since
Shira's
TJJ.
alias
Like
is
she doesn't show
is
up.
Sherelle. Who knows? Who is
Yeah.
Sherelle? Anyway,
She was a lucky winner every day in my
yeah,
subgroup,
that's
so
right.